People make the legacy retirement communities, people who get up every day looking forward to retirement living and the caring experts who sustain that goal for people. You meet them here every Saturday morning on The Aging Adventure, brought to you by The Legacy with 4 state-of-the-art communities in Lincoln. The Legacy, Legacy Terrace, Legacy Estates, and Legacy Arbors. I'm Dale Johnson, and with the help of John Kopetsky of Legacy Terrace and Kathy Blythe, we bring those caring experts to you. Good morning, John. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning, Dale.
Good morning.
Experts today include Jeff Chapin, Retirement Living Advisor on Sharing Your Stories, and Larry Gadeken, Legacy Executive Director on the importance of maintaining relationships. That's coming up on The Aging Adventure. After Lisa Martin, Legacy Enrichment Associate, emphasizes the importance of staying connected.
Great to have you with us today, Lisa. No matter what our age, loneliness is something that affects so many people, and never more so than the last year. What are some of the health risks that you have seen associated with loneliness, especially this year?
Yeah, there's been quite a few studies done related to loneliness, and they found that loneliness can lead to high blood pressure, an increase in the stress hormone cortisol, and faster cognitive decline. And these in turn can lead to a greater risk of heart disease and stroke. So they say that persistent loneliness is as bad as smoking 15 cigarettes per day. So it's obviously, can cause a lot of health problems, besides just that of, sadness and depression and things like that.
I think it's important that we acknowledge that loneliness is real and it can have, terrible effects on our lives. Smoking basically a pack of cigarettes a day. I don't think too many of us would, who don't smoke, would want to start doing that right now, but that's what we're dealing with, particularly in the last year. What are some of the ways we can combat that and cut down those number of cigarettes maybe from a pack to maybe just one?
I think the biggest thing to think about when combating loneliness is being willing to take a risk and step out of your comfort zone. I like the saying, do one thing every day that scares you. And if you do that, you can grow as a person and make some friends along the way. I kind of like to break it down into 2 categories of thinking about connecting to people. One is the people that you know already and how to connect to them, and then thinking about how to make new friends. So in that first category of people that you already know, some things that you could do, they might be obvious, like calling someone or inviting someone to do something, but I think that's hard for a lot of people to put yourself out there like that. And I know, sometimes I think, oh, well, this person might be busy, or they might not want to do that thing that I want to invite them to. So I just make an excuse for, myself and for them. So I think it's good to just remember that, people, that they might be lonely too. And so just to be willing to reach out to them and take that risk. Another idea is to just set a weekly date with someone. I know some women here who recently lost their husbands and just decided to start meeting once a week with each other to visit. And if you make a weekly date like that, you don't have to try to make plans again each week, with that person and go through that effort. So it's a good idea just to set a time and a day each week that that you're going to be meeting with a person. And then, sometimes you have family or friends that live in different places across the country. And I'm sure you've probably heard about different technology to be able to have a video call with them, like Zoom or FaceTime or things like that. But, some of you are a little bit hesitant about using technology. There is a device that some of our residents here have tried called ViewClicks. And all you need is to buy that device and have an internet connection in your house. And then you can your family can just call you and you don't have to answer it or anything like that. So that's worked really well for some of our residents here. And then that second category of meeting new people, you could volunteer. That's a good way to meet people and it's personally fulfilling. You could take some classes like Ollie or SCC has different classes you can take and you can meet people there. And then you could just go to places where people already hang out, like at a gym or a senior center, or if you had a dog, or you could take go to a dog park. And then pets, of course, are a great way to feel less lonely too. And, some of these things, they might sound great, but someone might not be able to do those things because maybe they can't drive anymore or, can't get around too well. And that's where, our senior living communities are really great because you have a lot of those opportunities just outside your door. You can, we have a lot of volunteer opportunities here. Like I used to take a group to the food bank before COVID started, and I've been doing some classes on some different topics that people come to. And then we have other, just scheduled events, social events that people are able to meet each other at. And then just hanging out in some of our common areas or going to our fitness center or dining, different things like that are a lot of great opportunities to meet people.
Those are great suggestions, and I've seen so many people just blossom into almost different individuals once they have that social interaction that's been lacking. It can make a dramatic change in life and add years to your life.
Right, for sure. Yeah, it's been really great to see a lot of the people here just really enjoy this environment.
Lisa, thank you very much. Coming up, the power of sharing when the aging adventure continues. Welcome back to The Aging Adventure. I'm Dale Johnson with John and Kathy. Everyone has a story or stories. They just need to be shared. On that subject, Kathy and John talk with Jeff Chapin, Retirement Living Advisor at Legacy.
Jeff, good morning. Each one of us has a unique story to tell, and as well as we think we might know somebody, frequently we can find out there's something in their past or part of their story that we just didn't know. Has that been your experience as well?
Good morning, John. Yes, it has. This is one of the best things about what we do is we sit down with people and we hear their story, we ask questions, we get to know them better. Sometimes we find it beneficial to deal with the families and get the families to know one another even better than they ever have in the past. And that's really fulfilling to us because it makes life a lot easier when you can smile and not sit around and think of negative things. So we find it very beneficial to get to know each other, get to know a story of their past. I've heard stories of the blizzard of 1949 where the snow came through a crack in the wall and put a drift in a room. I've heard stories of every walk of life that these people have, that they've done.
Well, and I'm sure that you run into situations when you're chatting with a family that they're hearing a story for the first time from that person who's telling you, and they never knew it.
Oh, that's what makes eyebrows raise and smiles get on faces when they say, Mom or Dad, we never knew that about you. And well, they haven't shared it with them yet. Everybody has there's a place in life where they're going to share a story, and now may not be the right time. But a lot of times when that happens, it really changes the outlook it puts a different perspective when somebody can get to know somebody a little bit more and know something personal, know something that, if somebody doesn't drink coffee, don't offer them a cup of coffee every time they come to your house. Those are little things that we learn about each other.
Jeff, there are so many of those stories out there, and I have discovered that in talking with my siblings. Well, I didn't know that about Dad, or I didn't know that about Mom. Can we be more intentional, or is there a way we can be more intentional about passing along those things to the next generation, the things that we want them, that are important to us, that we want them to know?
I think if we just slow life down a little bit and sit and visit with each other, have a conversation, and just get to know somebody better than, just make it a goal that you want to know something about somebody that that you're talking with. And it doesn't have to be a sibling or it could even be a spouse. So we just really like to just get to know a lot of people in the good ways. And there are some stories that are sad, but we help people through that. And when you can get through that, I think it can put a smile on your face.
And as you have stated before, and I'm sure you feel so strongly about, Jeff, is that you can't wait. I mean, we don't know how much time there is and how much regret people have. Oh, I wish I'd asked Dad about the war, even though it was hard for him to talk about, or I wish I'd asked this. And once they're gone, their stories are gone.
That is tough. The sooner you can find out information, I think the sooner it helps everyone. You never want to, you just regret that you didn't find out more about a loved one and that you didn't get to know more of the story, whether it be genealogy or wartime or what was it really like to raise 4 kids at home. Your husband went to work and you stayed home with the wife, stayed home with the kids. My mom worked and raised 4 kids. So to get to know them is you just have to dig a little bit deeper, and don't be afraid to ask that question. That's the biggest fear, is sometimes people are just afraid to ask just something that could be important to their life.
One way that you let people know a little bit about the history of everybody at the legacy, or give them a chance to anyway, is the little shelf that they have outside their door. And sometimes that is a great reflection of the high points of their life. Everybody has a story, and that is another way to tell your story to people you don't even know.
Kathy, we call those little shelves the front porch of life. On those front porches, people display basically things they've had throughout their life, or they'll even put expressions out there, or it really tells you who's inside that apartment, and it just makes you want to knock on the door and get to know them a little bit more.
Jeff, there are so many people of the greatest generation, the folks that are living in our communities now, that the incredible things they've done and the lives they've lived, and they seem so ordinary, just like you and me. There was one gentleman that lived here at Legacy Terrace who was part of the ground crew for the Enola Gay, the plane that dropped the first atomic bomb. And you would have never known it. But I was glad he shared that with me. I think there are so many stories that we're losing. And if there's a way we can draw those out, it's that would be a treasure for all of us for the next generations.
A treasure is an understatement, John. To get to know these people, we've had many people that don't want to talk about their experiences of what they went through in wartime. We had a gentleman that was a POW that was never talk about it, but on Christmas he would always make peanut brittle and he would share it with all of the staff and residents around him. And that was the day that he opened up and would talk about things. That's another great experience that we get.
Thank you, Jeff. Still ahead, the importance of relationships when the aging adventure continues. Good morning, I'm Dale Johnson. In the few minutes left on the Aging Adventure, Kathy and John talk with Larry Gadeken, Legacy Executive Director, about the importance of continuing a positive relationship with your aging parent.
Good morning to you, Larry. Continuing the relationship with your aging parent is something that's very near and dear to your heart. And how do we best do that through all the years of our lives and of theirs?
Good morning, Kathy. Well, one of the most important things, I think, just being proactive about, especially looking at transitions in somebody's life, is making sure that you communicate well. And one of the things that I see is so important, that people listen to understand. It's not about being right. It's about understanding each other, because there are in this situation where there's a transition of the move or whatever. There are a lot of people that are involved, could be children, could be friends, definitely the adult parent, and everybody needs to be heard. So it's very important that they understand each other.
Larry, sometimes what also our residents are dealing with, and their children too, is the role reversal where the parent has always been the one helping out the child, and now suddenly the child is the one helping out their aging parent.
Yeah, absolutely, John. I think one thing that if there's 4 words that I'd like kids to know, and this goes for me in a lot of things that I do when it comes to relationships, but 4 words, it's not about you. It's about your parent. They're the ones that you need to be concerned about. They're the ones that you need to be able to, as much as you can, make their wishes come true when it comes to this, because that transition is tough. But everybody should have an opportunity to speak, because unity is critical here. You need to find common ground as the kids. There are a lot of people that can be involved in these transitions. It might be, well, the parent themselves, the kids, might be a doctor, an attorney, other health experts. And that's also where people at the legacy can come in and be a part of that transition, because we've been through this with a lot of different families. So we kind of know all the moving parts. And so it's fairly easy for us to maybe direct or redirect things and help the families and the adult parent to make the decision and make the transition. If I could, I'd like to just share a story. It's about a little bit about a transition, not necessarily about the moving, but we had a couple who lived in independent living, and mom was the parent that was loving, kind, and affectionate, and gave words of affirmation and stuff, and she passed away. And the kids, dad was distant, not affectionate or complimentary, really. And the kids, they knew that he loved them, but they wanted something more out of the relationship. So I said, let's look at the truth of that. Where'd your dad come from? And they all said, well, that dad didn't have that in his life. And so they kind of got that, but it didn't stop them from longing that in theirs. And so I challenged them to take the lead on a new relationship and try to break down those barriers. And I won't forget, 2 of the daughters were visiting him in his apartment, and I was with them, and daughter came up and she held his hand and said, I love you, and gave him a kiss, and tears just began to flow right away. And all the kids then experienced the rest of his life, hugs, kisses, words of affirmation, and the love that they never felt that they got from their dad. But they had to take the lead on that. And, I think about that. It's so much more important to face your fear than to live with the regret.
Larry, I'm sure there are lots of stories that you have like that. You're such a compassionate person who is day in and day out exuding that compassion to those that you are around, not only the people who live there, but the people who work there. And the relationships with the kids and adults, it's ever evolving. But I guess once you get to that retirement stage of life in a retirement community, those relationships are so precious. And it's good that you can facilitate, if people are having an issue with that, communicating with a parent. You have lots of advice to give them.
Yeah, I think we do as a community, especially. There's so many people that do care very much for the residents and people that are going to be moving in, and the kids themselves. Another thing I would tell the kids to be proactive as much as you can too. You go over to their home and stuff, and you see the changes as time goes, and don't wait for the crisis. We have so many options here. We have independent living, assisted living, memory care. It's really important that you know your parent and what's going on in their lives, so you can help steer them towards a level of care that they need. Remembering that it's always about the quality of life that your parent's going to have. Maybe independent living isn't the best. Maybe memory care is best if they have cognitive decline, or maybe assisted living is. But again, people at the legacy can help with that transition and understand how things can work. One other quick caution is be careful what you promise. Sometimes kids promise their parents they will never move them into a memory care community. And when life gets closer to the end or cognitive changes happen, they may have to step in and be a part of that process, be a part of your life in a really positive way in a relationship. And, if you are looking for a new place to live, find what fits you find the best place for you. And if it's not here, we're not offended. We're just happy to be a small part of your life.
Connectedness, sharing, and relationships. 3 foundational human values that make life better at any stage of life. Lisa Martin, Jeff Chapin, and Larry Gadeken foster those values every day at the Legacy Retirement Communities. John, where do listeners go for more information?
Contact us by email, questions@legacyretirement.com, by telephone, 402-436-3000, or online, legacyretirement.com.
And Kathy, we will talk again next week. Cultivating positive and productive relationships to last a lifetime. It's what you'll find every Saturday morning on The Aging Adventure. I'm Dale Johnson.